There are so many bosses in old school RuneScape that sometimes when you're first getting started, it can feel really overwhelming to try and figure out where to start. Do you start at the giant mole? Do you start at Zulrah? Do you just go balls deep and go straight to the Theater of Blood? Today, we're going to be going through all of the bosses in old school RuneScape in ladder formation. I'm going to take you guys through which bosses are the easiest, which ones are going to help you learn, and which ones you're supposed to be doing in the late game. What gives me the right to teach you guys this? I've got a maxed account. I've done every single boss in old school RuneScape, and I've completed the Grandmaster combat achievements. Let's get into it. Now, when you're first getting into bossing in old school RuneScape, you're going to want to start with the easiest boss, Wintertot. Yep, that's right. According to Jagex, the creators of RuneScape, when they were coming out with the Grandmaster combat achievement system, they decided that Wintertot and Temperos were combat. Whilst they're technically bosses, they're not actually bosses, but they will teach you some things about movement and where to stand and functionality of the game. So if you're really newbie, maybe that's a great place to start. Otherwise, let's get into some actual bosses. Now, the first actual boss is an absolute classic one. This is something that is extremely nostalgic from everyone's childhood: Barrows. Barrows is one of the easiest bosses in old school RuneScape. You basically just need to pray against the brothers and attack them back with magic. It's as simple as it gets. All this is going to teach you is how to pray the right thing, because it's only one attack style. You don't need to change your prayers at all. This is the easiest thing you can start at. To go there, you're going to want to have 43 prayer, and that's about it. You can absolutely get it done with just 43 prayer and no other stats. For a quick tip though, if you want to not have your prayer drain inside the room, you can complete the medium combat achievements. But if you're that new, just save that for later. Next up, after you've learned Barrows, if you want to step it up just a smidgen, are 3 different bosses that are basically the exact same thing. We have the Deranged Archaeologist, the Chaos Fanatic, and the Crazy Archaeologist. They're all basically the same boss, just with a different skin. All you need to do is pray correctly against them, whether that be range or mage, depending on which boss you're at, and dodge their AoE attacks. They're all going to throw something at you and say some sort of text, and they'll throw an AoE attack at you. You just have to dodge it on the floor. This is obviously going to teach you positioning and moving out of the way of monsters' attacks. As you get later in this ladder, there are going to be bosses that are throwing stuff at you very quickly. So learning these slow ones is a nice stepping stone to the later ones, where you're going to have to do it a lot quicker. All you need for these bosses are some range levels and some mage levels and 43 prayer, and you're good to get in there. Another nostalgic boss is the King Black Dragon. Now, this is once again another very easy boss. If you have an anti-dragon fire shield and an anti-fire, you just have to stand next to it and pray magic and eat a little bit of food every now and then. What this boss is going to teach you is not anything mechanically. This is going to teach you, for bosses like God Wars and things like that, how to have good potion and inventory management. You're going to have to figure out the exact right amount of prayer potions, the exact right amount of brews, restores, ranging potions, anti-fires, sharks, everything. You need to figure out just how many of those to bring to the KBD, because this is a boss that you can camp out for a long time. If you have max gear and blood barrage, you can actually stay here literally forever. You never have to leave. So a boss like this is going to teach you nothing mechanically, just good inventory management. Once again, all you really need is 43 prayer and some range levels to get down here. On to, believe it or not, some free-to-play bosses. And I know it's weird to have some free-to-play bosses at this point in the list, but Jagex in recent years have done a great job in helping players have some stepping stones to later game content. These free-to-play bosses, Obor and Bryophyter, are going to help you with some other movement with boss fights. For example, with Obor, you're going to need to basically kite him around the room so you don't get knocked back, and you can dodge out of the way of some of his attacks as well, and you don't want to be standing next to the walls because he's going to be able to slam you into them. Bryophyter, on the other hand, is going to teach you some quick actions. The quicker you are at this boss, the faster you're going to be able to kill it, because you can kill the little saplings in one tick by using the axe on them. So the faster you get that done, the faster you can get back to killing the boss, the more you can kill per hour, and the more money you're going to make. These are free-to-play bosses, so you can do them on free-to-play worlds, and it is a very, very small stepping stone to the next level to learn a few things about bossing. Next is the giant mole. Now, this thing is going to teach you one thing and one thing only: how important it is to train your account outside of combats. There's a lot of versatility and a lot of utility for having your skills up, and especially at the giant mole, you need to be able to get the Felidor hard diary done so that you can get the Felidor Shield 3 so that it will tell you where the boss is. If you try and do it without that, you're going to have a terrible time. You can also learn to use 1 HP Darox here with your Prey and Melee up, or you can range it or use Earth spells against this boss. But this boss teaches you one thing and one thing only: the utility of training your account outside of combat. Now, while this one is technically a skilling boss, it is a lot better than Wintertot and Temperos at teaching you some things for your PVMing. This one is Zolcano. Inside Prifdinus with 70 mining, you can take on Zolcano solo or in a group. And basically, this boss is going to teach you how to dodge some attacks. Zolcano has a falling rock attack that will light up a little square underneath you, a little circle underneath your character that you need to dodge out of the way of. And then also we'll have blue and red circles on the ground during some of the phases. You need to be able to dodge the red circles on the ground as you're running from one side of the room to the other. This is going to really help you with your positioning. So if you're not necessarily ready to get into some crazy bossing, you can always go down to Zolcano for a bit of skilling and train your mining up, because that is also going to help you in the Chambers of Xeric and the Tombs of Amascut. Now, the first real boss on this list, the first one that is going to be a little bit difficult, is Skatizo. Now, while this boss is technically just stand far away and pray mage, you can also stand close and pray melee and just tank some of the mage hits. But this boss is going to teach you about environmental effects. It has little spawns that it will come out with that you need to stay away from if you're praying mage. It has some dark Ankus that you need to stay away from if you're praying mage as well, because they can hit very hard. And then it also has the totems. These eyes on top of the totems will give Skatizo defense, so you need to take them out so that you can kill the boss as well. This shows that you need to be completely aware of all things going on in the boss room at all times, because later in this bossing ladder, there are a lot of bosses that have a lot more environmental effects that you need to be paying attention to. Another fantastic recent stepping stone upgrade is the Huicoatl. This is a boss that you're definitely going to want to take on in a group, and this is going to help you learn how to prayer flick with a boss that has multiple attack styles. This is the first boss on the list that has multiple attack styles. It's going to attack you with mage, range, and melee. When it shoots the crystals down, it will be blue, green, or red. This is a very common theme amongst RuneScape bosses, the green, blue, and red for mage, range, and melee. And it's going to teach you to be able to flick between your mage, range, and melee protection prayers. On top of that, when you finally start hitting the boss instead of the tail, there are totems that need to be charged, and they charge up based on what the people are praying in the room. There needs to be one person praying mage, one person praying range, and one person praying melee, so that you do bonus damage to Huicoatl. This is going to help you work in a team and also learn how to use your prayers effectively. The first spider on this list, but it certainly won't be the last, Sarachnis. This is one of the very easy spider bosses, and this boss is not only going to teach you how to prayer flick, there are multiple different phases throughout this boss where you have to pray melee, or when it starts moving you have to pray range, but it's also going to teach you how to manage the minions in boss fights. This boss has a lot of minions that come out. When there's only a couple, it's very manageable. However, once it spawns more, you sort of need to get on top of it. So this is going to teach you how to manage effectively how many minions are in the room and whether or not you should ignore them or whether you should be attacking them. Next up is the Chaos Elemental, and this is in Deep Wild. This is going to teach you a few things. Number one, the wilderness is not as scary as you think it is. Just don't go into the wilderness risking any items that you aren't willing to lose. People will be there, people will try and kill you, people will PK you. So don't take anything you're not willing to lose, but the wilderness isn't that scary if you don't take that much gear. The other thing it is going to teach you is some monsters have different effects. The Chaos Elemental in particular has a special attack that will de-gear you. It will take off your gear if you have inventory space open. So the best thing you can do is use pies as your food, because that will leave a pie dish in your inventory when it is finished, and the boss won't be able to de-gear you. On top of that, if you would like, there is also a bunch of methods where you can flinch this boss. In old school, there are some bosses where you can hide around a corner, and if you wait long enough between your hits, you can hit them and they can't hit you back as long as you hide back around that obstacle. I'm obviously not going to go through how to do that in this guide. There are plenty of guides out there that you can look up on how to do this, but this is going to teach you that some bosses really aren't that hard at all. Now, the last boss was to teach you that, well, the wilderness isn't that scary. The next boss is going to teach you that the wilderness is scary. It's going to teach you to hate PKers. It's going to tell you to say horrible things to them when they kill you, and it's going to make you want to break your monitor.
No, I've had enough of this shit.
Okay, seriously. Scorpia is the next boss. It's not going to make you hate PKs. There's probably going to be a lot more people here to try and kill you. You are going to die more often, but it is what it is. That's part of being in the wilderness. What Scorpia is actually going to teach you is how to kite a boss. This is something that you're going to need for God Wars Dungeon later as we get up to that list, but it's also going to teach you that you can also just freeze some bosses. Some bosses it doesn't work on, but Scorpia in particular, you can just cast an ice barrage on it and it's frozen for 20 seconds. You don't need to stand next to it, and you can just kill the boss and go on your merry way. An absolutely incredible, perfect update to the game from Jagex is Scorius, the rat boss. And this boss is going to teach you some much needed things about bossing in old school RuneScape. It attacks with all three combat styles. On top of that, it has minions that come out that you do need to kill because they will hit you a lot. On top of that, it has a healing phase. So it will go over to the cheese, it will eat it, it will heal up to prolong the fight. It has an enrage phase where it drops things from the ceiling as well as switching between its mage and range attack. This is going to be a very slow paced, easy to learn boss that is going to teach you a lot of mechanics that you are going to use throughout your journey in RuneScape. In the depths of Waterbirth Island are the Dagannoth Kings, the trio. However, for the next stepping stone, we're not going to be killing all three. We are only going to be killing Dagannoth Rex. This is going to teach you how to safe spot some bosses. There are some bosses that are easier than others, and this one is very chill. However, it's going to teach you some inventory management on a deeper level than King Black Dragon, because the run to Dagannoth Rex is so long. It is unbelievably long that once you get down there, you do not want to leave. So you are going to have to figure out how to manage your inventory to have the longest trips possible. It's a very easy boss to do, but the most important thing here is the inventory management. On top of that, you're going to have to figure out how to set the boss up. You need to avoid the other two Dagannoth Kings while you just get the aggro of Dagannoth Rex in a very small area, a very confined area. It's very tough to do, but you're going to learn. The Amoxalatl is going to teach you how to deal with some special effects from monsters. The Amoxalatl has a special attack where it will turn your prayer off, and you have to turn it back on, or you are going to get hit for a lot of damage. On top of that, you need to move away from the floor Every time it attacks, you need to move to a different tile. This is going to help you with your movement. And that also has a healing phase where you need to attack some ice chunks on the ground. This is a very common theme amongst a lot of bosses in old school as well. The Royal Titans, another fantastic update that came to old school RuneScape recently. This is for very early game players that are just looking to get into bossing. And this is the first boss that you're going to need to bring switches to. You're going to need to have more than one combat style to take on the Royal Titans. So this boss is going to teach you how to switch between gear so that you can do the most damage at the perfect time. You need range and melee at this boss. On top of that, it has a bunch of minions. It has ground attacks. You need to pray different things against it. It's a really, really great boss as a really good stepping stone into the mid game. It's the first boss that can really teach you a lot of stuff, and I would highly, highly recommend doing some Royal Titans. If you don't feel like doing any other boss on the list that we've gone through so far, I would highly recommend at least jumping into Royal Titans to learn before you move on. It's time to get serious, ladies and gentlemen. Everybody remembers their first fire cape. Maybe some of you watching this haven't got your first fire cape yet, but taking on Tuztok Jad is something no one will forget. I remember getting my first cape when I was 15 years old, 17 years ago. I can't believe I just said that out loud. I remember getting my first cape. I got it, and then I went to the movies with my high school friends, and I told them, guys, I just got my first fire cape, and everyone thought I was the coolest kid going around. In reality, I was a big fucking loser. The fight caves are going to teach you some great inventory management, because once you go in, there are 63 waves of mobs that you need to get through before you can even get to Jad, which is the easiest part of the caves, to be completely honest with you. You should never ever die to TZ Tok Jad if you're not nervous. If you know that you can switch your prayers from mage to range, keep a distance, it should be easy to do. But because you've just spent the last hour, sometimes 2 hours getting up to Jad, the nerves are crazy, because this boss can absolutely one-shot you. So what this boss will teach you is how to remain calm in stressful situations. Baby's first raid, the Moons of Peril. Once again, I keep slobbing on the knob of Jagex here, but this is another fantastic update that came to old school RuneScape as a stepping stone. This is a perfect mid-game raid type thing to teach you how to move forward onto those late game raids. The Moons of Peril is fantastic. There are some tick perfect mechanics in there. There are a raid style format. You also have to learn how to dodge some attacks. You need to have phases in there where you do a lot of damage if you click the right things. It's a fantastic stepping stone into late game raids, and once you get the Moons of Peril down, you're doing pretty good. You can move on to a lot of other bosses on this list that we're going to go over very soon, and this is a fantastic way to learn how to get into raiding. The next three bosses are grouped together. They are the wilderness bosses. You have Calvarion, Spindle, and Artio. These are hot spots for PKers. So one thing that can really help in your PVM is actually doing PvP. If you can learn how to pray correctly against a player, if you can learn how to fight back, catch a freeze, get an escape, if you can learn how to do that against a player, it's so much easier to learn how to do that against a boss that has a set cycle of attacks that it does. You should be easily able to pray against them. Or if you want to fight back, you can bring a sneaky AGS. I know you guys are noobs watching this, don't worry. You probably can't even wield one yet, but it's something to keep in the back of your mind for the future. The wilderness bosses print money. You can make so much money at the wilderness bosses, but you do get interrupted quite a bit by PKs, and if you can fight back or get a freeze escape, you're going to make a lot more money. Don't be scared of the wilderness, guys. Get out there, jump in, and it will teach you a lot. Next up is the Calphite Queen. This boss has two different phases, but the main thing it is going to teach you is how to mitigate boss attacks. Sometimes there are bosses in old school RuneScape where you can literally just stand underneath them. They're so big they can only move one tile at a time, and they're 5 tiles big. So if you have a quick enough click, you can just stand underneath the boss until you're ready to attack it. The Calphite Queen attacks at a 3-tick rate, very fast. It attacks very fast, and most of the time you're going to be using a weapon that is 4-tick or 5-tick against the Calphite Queen. So if you learn how to stand underneath it, it can only attack you at a 4-tick or a 5-tick rate, which means you're going to take a lot less damage throughout the fight. And trust me, this thing fucks. You do not want to be taking as much damage as you possibly can. You want to be mitigating that damage by standing underneath. We are back at Waterbirth Island for the Dagannoth Kings. However, this time we're not going to be taking on the Dagannoth Rex only. We're going to be taking on all of the Dagannoth Kings. Now, this is going to teach you how to manage respawn timers. There's a lot of bosses in old school RuneScape that have respawn timers, and these ones, you do not want to have more than one of the bosses alive at a time. But if you do have more than one boss alive at a time, this is great for teaching you how to manage spacing within the room. There are certain portions of the room that you can stand where only Supreme can see you. There are certain portions of the room where only Prime can see you, and there's certain portions of the room where only Rex can see you. This is going to teach you where to stand within boss rooms and figure out that sometimes bosses can't see you if you stand in the right spot, and you can avoid some damage from minions or other bosses in the room as well. All right, things are starting to get serious now, and this one sounds like a bit of a weird one, but you've got to bear with me here. We are actually going to be doing our first raid. I think this is a perfect stepping stone, a perfect spot to put this one. And that first raid is the Tombs of Amascut, but with no invocations active. This is basically just a learning experience. You are absolutely not getting any loot from this. All you're doing is teaching yourself how to do a lot of mechanics within a raid, how to have good inventory management within a raid, how to maximize DPS, how to deal with multiple bosses at a time, and how to do a lot of prayer flicking. There are a lot of different mechanics inside the Tombs of Amascut, and if you go in with 0 invocation active, it's as easy as it will ever get, and it's completely free. You can die as many times as you want, and you will just be given a whole bunch of stuff to complete the raid with. The honey locusts will help you get through the raid. If you die enough times, you'll have 1,000 of them in your inventory, and you'll be able to get through it no problem. If you go through the raid, it's going to teach you a lot about management of different bosses, and it's going to help you with the bosses that we'll be going to next as well. So if you get to this point, you want to try out a raid, go to the Tombs of Amascut, do a 0 invocation. It is fantastic. Now's where things get really serious, and I'm going to group the next 4 bosses in together because realistically they are completely interchangeable at where you want to put them on the ladder, which one you want to do first. They're all going to teach you fantastic things for your bossing experience. That is the Gauntlet, Zulrah, Vorkath, and the Phantom Musper. Not the Corrupted Gauntlet, just the regular Gauntlet, all right? The easy one. We don't want to chuck you into the Corrupted Gauntlet just yet, but the Gauntlet is going to teach you how to have fast gameplay. You need to be able to prep very quickly, and you can't just sit there dilly-dallying. You need to make sure you're doing quick work so that you can get into the boss, and the boss itself is going to teach you movement, prayer switching, positioning of the boss so that you can actually get through the boss fight with the amount of fish that you have in your inventory. Zulrah is going to teach you great prayer switching. It's going to teach you gear switching as well, dealing with minions, positioning. It's great for learning how to optimize your gear setup as well. There's lots of little upgrades that you can make along the way that are going to help a lot with the Zulrah boss fight. Now, Zulrah was actually the #1 boss on the ladder when I started RuneScape. That's how many new bosses have come out into this game to make things easier and stepping stones to help you guys learn. When I first started RuneScape, Zulrah was the first boss that I killed. I had to jump straight into it, and oh my god, was it a learning experience. If you do all of the bosses on the ladder leading up to Zulrah here, you're going to be able to get it done first try, no problem. And once again, teaching you good movement and prayer is going to be Vorkath and the Phantom Musper. I say Zulrah, Vorkath, and Muspar are 3 very interchangeable bosses. They all do very similar things, and they're going to teach you very similar stuff. So group them all together, whether you want to do the Gauntlet, Zulrah, Vorkath, Muspar, or all 4. Why not? Try them all out. We're going to be moving down to God War's Dungeon. Now, this might seem a little backwards, but bear with me. We're going to be going to Nex first. Obviously, you need to get 1 kill at the rest of the bosses so that you get the frozen key piece before you can go there, but 1 kill is not hard to do at the bosses. If you've got a full inventory of food, you can just brute force it, but getting down to Nex is going to help a lot for working as a group. Positioning. There aren't many gear swaps at Nex. It's a lot easier than the rest of the God Wars dungeon bosses because you have to do it as a group, but you also need to have good gameplay. You need to make sure you're in the right spots, you're not ragging the teammates, you're killing the minions at the right time, you're attacking the boss at the right time, you're praying the right thing. Nex is really good for learning how to work with a team, and there are a lot of mass worlds going on all of the time that you can just jump in on. The rest of God War's Dungeon I'm going to group in together. Now, RuneScape is a massively multiplayer online role-playing game that you're supposed to play with your friends or random people across the world. However, it's become so optimized that everyone just plays it by themselves. Solo God War's Dungeon is some of the hardest content in the game if you're going to do it properly. Back in the day, people used to just brute force it, go in, do 1 kill trips with Guffins and full Bandos and a whip just to get 1 kill of General Grador. Nowadays, there are so many different methods to stand on this tile at this time and pray this thing at this time. Look up a guide if you're going to these. It is very tough to do, but once you get the method down, it feels amazing, and it's going to teach you how to be tick perfect. That's right, I said tick perfect. Things are getting very serious now. We're getting to the tail end. The harder bosses, you're going to need to be perfect at. Sometimes you can make mistakes. Don't worry. It's not so punishing that you can't mess up just a little bit. But these bosses, the God Wars Dungeon bosses, are going to teach you tick perfect methods and how to position yourself around a boss room to avoid a lot of damage. After Desert Treasure 2, you're going to have access to Duke Succulus. This is going to teach you that sometimes Jagex is terrible. I don't know why they decided it'd be a good idea to make people do skilling before they got to kill a boss, but what the hell is that? I hate it, man. The boss itself, the fight, is actually quite fun. It's going to teach you how to avoid environmental hazards like the floor that shoots up spikes every time the boss attacks. It also does a bunch of chip damage to you, so you're also going to have to learn inventory management as well. But this boss is going to teach you a lot. It's a difficult boss. It's most certainly not easy. And then, of course, it also has its awakened version, but we'll get to that later. Next up is another Desert Treasure boss, the Whisperer. This is one of the harder bosses for Desert Treasure 2 bosses, and this boss is going to teach you about phases. The Whisperer has 3 different phases throughout the fight that you need to do different things for. And a lot of bosses in old school RuneScape have different phases, enrage phases, and stuff like that. The Whisperer has 3 different phases and an enrage phase. It's going to teach you how to press swap correctly because you need to be tick perfect between range and mage during some of the attacks. It's going to teach you that you need to stay out of melee range as well. You can only attack it with mage, so you need to stay far away from it. It's also going to teach you the utility of some weapons like the Venator bow, where the Venator bow is not great for bossing. However, in this specific boss, it's fantastic for one little portion. So it's going to teach you that sometimes you need a utility weapon to bring into the boss room as well. Next in the list, I have put the Corrupted Gauntlet. Now, this is nothing like the regular Gauntlet. On release, it was so difficult for me to get one of these done. It is a very, very tough boss. You have less time to get prepared, so you can't get as good of armor and weapons, and on top of that, you're going to go in with a lot less food as well. This boss hits way harder. There are more tornadoes on the floor. This is a tough, tough boss. And we are getting to the point of the ladder where these bosses aren't really going to teach you anything anymore. They're not going to teach you something that you didn't already know how to do, like moving out of the way of the tornadoes. It's just going to be a lot more difficult. You're going to need to lock in and get that shit done. Back to the Desert Treasure 2 bosses, the Leviathan. Now, this boss is going to teach you about setting yourself up for success. The boss is going to have several different attacks. One of those is going to be where it shoots boulders at you, and you need those boulders because they are going to block you from the explosion attack. So you need to be able to perfectly set the boulders up in a position that you can stand behind them to save yourself from getting hit from damage. On top of the environmental setup, prayer switching at the Leviathan is crazy. This is one of the hardest bosses in the game to learn to prayer switch at, and if you can learn to prayer switch at the Leviathan, you can learn to prayer switch anywhere. The last of the Desert Treasure 2 bosses, and the hardest one in my opinion, is Vardorvis. This boss is going to teach you movement. Not movement, movement, ladies and gentlemen, because you need to be in the perfect positioning at all times to dodge those axes. There are special tiles that you can stand to dodge the axes at the right times, and they come in perfectly at the right time so that you can move out of the way of them. This is a fantastic boss for learning movement, and once you get this down, you are so ready to conquer the late game. Vardorvis, I think itself, is a late game boss, mid to late game, but once you learn how to get that movement down, you are absolutely ready for the late game. The first, in my opinion, late game boss on this list is the recently released Yama. This is a very tough boss. You can take it on in a duo or a solo, and this is going to teach you a lot of things. Well, it's not going to teach you much. It's going to have a bunch of different effects in there that you already know that you have to put all together. Tick perfect prayer swaps, environmental damage, standing on the glyphs though, so that you can avoid damage. The judge section where you have to do the agility shortcut and stand under the boss so that it will take more damage. Then the final phase where you can't stand within melee range, otherwise it will spawn orbs that heal the boss. This boss is crazy. We're getting to the hard part, but if you can get this boss down, I think you are able to do a lot of different content in this game. Yama is a great one to get in. There's a lot of money. You can make a lot of money from oath plates. Definitely get down and give it a crack when you're ready. All right, the first actual raid. Now, while TOA is actually the easiest raid because you can set the invocation level to whatever you want, the easiest raid in terms of what people actually do at the bosses is the Chambers of Xeric. It's the first raid that came into the game. It's one of my favorite pieces of content in the game. Definitely not my favorite, but one of my favorite pieces of content in the game. There are several different boss rooms where you need to take different attack styles. You are going to need to bring melee, range, and range to this boss. You're going to have a very full inventory of gear. And on top of that, you're going to need to bring in your potions as well. Inside the boss rooms, you can prep your own stuff. So you can make your own potions inside here. It's like its own little world where you can do everything that you need to do inside the whole raid. This is also going to teach you a lot of advanced endgame movement if you decide to solo the boss. If you're in a group, it's going to teach you how to run the head to position the boss properly. It's going to teach you that in old school RuneScape, there are a lot of clunky mechanics that you can use to avoid damage in the game. Chambers of Xeric, a fantastic raid, highly recommend, and we're getting into the late game now. Next up on the ladder is TOA, but 300 plus invocation. The invocation does go up to 600. Don't want to brag, but I have completed one of them in my time. Once again, don't want to brag, but I have completed one of them. 300 invocation TOA is a fantastic milestone for old school RuneScape players. Once you start doing TOA at the 0 invocation early on to learn things, you can start slowly introducing new invocations until you get to the point that you can't do it anymore. Practice, practice, practice until you can increase the invocations more. And once you get up to 300, that's when you know you're absolutely gaming and you're going to be printing money as well. Only a couple of bosses left here, and that is the Fasani's Nightmare. Now, the Nightmare and the Fasani's Nightmare, we could put the Nightmare earlier on this list. However, Fasani's, I feel like you kind of want to just jump straight into that one rather than dealing with the Nightmare earlier. Of course, you can kill it in a group, but Fasani's is an extremely difficult boss. It has been made slightly easier with some changes recently. However, this is an extremely punishing boss. If you miss a prayer, you are going to take 60 damage. Simple as that. If you stand on the wrong tile on the floor, you are going to take 60 damage. If you don't eat a Sandfuse serum at the right time, you are going to take 60 damage. This boss slaps you up, and it is a very, very difficult, not even a stepping stone. Once you're killing Fasani's Nightmare, you are well in the late game, and you are probably able to do most of the content in old school RuneScape. The final raid, the Theater of Blood, and my favorite piece of content in old school RuneScape. I absolutely love this raid. I was there for the release. I wasn't there for the release of Chambers of Xeric. I'm not that old. I was there for the release of TOB, and it was so fantastic. This raid was so hard that on release, it wasn't completed for 3 days. The first team that completed the Theater of Blood, it was 3 days after the release. It was an absolutely unbelievable watch. It was great to be a part of. Fantastic raid. This is the toughest raid in old school RuneScape because of how punishing it is. In the Chambers of Xeric, if you die in a room, you can just go straight back in. In TOA, you can set an invocation so that if your whole team wipes, you're able to continue the raid. Theater of Blood, you do not have an option. If everyone dies in a room, you start over from scratch. So if you're going in with a team of 5 people that have no idea what they're doing, it's so hard to get through the entire raid. There are a million different mechanics, but on top of that, once you actually learn the basics of how to do the raid, there are so many different little intricate details that you can use to increase your speed, increase your damage, and figure out how to just do the boss quicker and quicker over time. A fantastic piece of content. And finally, there are 2 more bosses for this list, and I'm going to group them together. That is the Inferno and the Colosseum. I often get asked in my live streams, which one do I think is harder, the Inferno or the Colosseum? And I say, if you did the Inferno first, then the Inferno is harder. If you did the Colosseum first, then the Colosseum is harder. Once you can do the Colosseum, you can do the Inferno. Once you can do the Inferno, you can do the Colosseum. They are both just as hard as each other, in some different ways, but mostly the same ways. They are a wave-based minigame. The Inferno, obviously a lot longer. The waves of the Inferno are 69 waves, whereas in the Colosseum, there's only 12. But they are going to teach you how to have good inventory management. It's going to teach you how to perfectly prayer flick multiple mobs at the same time. And it's going to teach you how to use the environment to your advantage by using the pillars so that not all of the mobs can see you at the same time. In terms of the boss fight, the Inferno boss fight is way harder. Way harder. You have to deal with the boss as well as a Jad, as well as the minions, as well as the healers. Whereas for Solhi Reddit, you just have to deal with the boss itself and have the right positioning. 2 of the hardest pieces of content in the game, and if you can conquer both of those, well, that's it. You've conquered everything in old school RuneScape. Ladies and gentlemen, that is the bossing ladder for old school RuneScape. That is what I personally think is the perfect stepping stone to get to the late game if you want to start from nothing and learn how to PVM in old school. I hope this has helped you in some way. If it has, don't forget to subscribe to the channel. If you haven't already, leave a like on this video, drop a comment down below, and I'll catch you guys in the next video very shortly. Take it easy.